Okay, so this tutorial is going to talk about posting and retrieving data from a remote website. And this is going to be probably the most straightforward way to do it. There's a million ways to do it. There's reasons why what I'm going to show you won't work. There's reasons why it doesn't scale. There's all sorts of reasons. But if all you're trying to do is get some data to a website and pull it back for small scale projects, this will actually work pretty good. And we'll start from here, and then we can move on and maybe do some other tutorials about different things. There's a lot of people who are saying about leaderboards, how do you post them online? And this is sort of the starts of that. It shows you how to exchange information between your client and your server. Because if you wanted to have online leaderboards where you have multiple clients out there, multiple instances of your game out there doing things, you want to have one server where you're going to post all that information to. And you want that server to hold all of the latest leaderboards and all the latest information and have your clients sort of get their copy from it. So this is one way to do it. We're going to use something called MAMP if you're not overly familiar with this. We're going to write some PHP scripts, only 2 of them, that will store the data and get it back out. And if you don't really run web servers or any of that kind of stuff, you can download MAMP or WAMP or LAMP or whatever you want to call it, depending on the platform that you're on, and it gives you a really quick PHP web server, and so it's Apache, MySQL, PHP. That's what AMP is, and then the M is Mac or LAMP or WAMP for Windows. And I've got my stuff running here. I think it'll show you on my ports. My Apache port is 8888, and so that's where we're going to do all of our, getting all of our web calls from. Again, this is meant to be really, really quick and get the idea going. It's not going to be a complete project, and it may not be anything that you would use out of the box, but it gives you the idea of how to do all this sort of stuff. So if you install Apache and PHP on Amazon or wherever you want to host your server, you're going to replace some of these commands with your credentials and the location of your actual stuff running on a system. But for here, this is going to install all on my local machine, so everything will be running with localhost. Okay, so all of that stuff out of here, and really, I like to do Unity tutorials. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on PHP, so that part of it will be very brief, and then you could use a little bit of that knowledge to go on a little bit further. So anyways, once we install MAMP, we're going to have Apache running, and I'm going to grab a command prompt here, and then this is where I'm going to edit, make this a little bit bigger. See if I can make this a little bigger. If not, that's okay. I'm sure you can read it. Oh my gosh, I have never been in these settings. Columns. I wish it would just say, what font are you using? Advanced. Well, looks like, oh, here it is, font. Missed it. Okay. Fonts. Let's up this. Oops. How about that? Okay. Does that work? 22 font. Hello? No. Okay, so I am going to say that we are just... Why didn't that work? Apply it? No. Shell. Oh, there we go. Much better. Okay, so perfect. Where am I at? Okay, so I changed my font size, and now everything is much better. And I'm going to do all this from the command line because that's how I edit simple text files for the most part. These are just text files. You can edit them using whatever you want to. I'm going to go to where my PHP scripts are supposed to be, and on my Mac, it's going to be Applications, MAMP, htdocs. And then in here, I can edit all of my files. So what we're going to make is we're just going to post one name. That's it. We're not going to do any comparison with scores or any of that kind of stuff. We're going to save all that for later, but I want to show you how you can post a name to a website and then later on retrieve it from inside of Unity. So we're going to need one script that posts the name, one script that reads the name. So vi post name.php. And then in here was going to be our PHP script. And we'll put a few things in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it in the URL. So we're going to call this website, and then at the end we're going to pass in the name that we want to be saved. And so we're going to need to get that variable from the web call. So we'll say something like $name equals $get. And again, this is all PHP stuff if you want to look up more on it. And we're going to call it name when we pass it in. That'll be our variable name. And then we want to write it to a file. So my file equals fopen. And we'll just call it names. How about just name? Name.txt. We will open it for writing. And then we can do our catch here. Unable to open the file. Just a little bit of error correction going on here. Why not? So we're going to open up our file, name.txt, and we just have to write to it with fwrite. And we will write name. Oops. Where are we writing? My file. What are we writing? There we go, and then we'll close it. All right, so this is going to be basically our script. I'm going to put one more thing up here. I will just say echo $name. That way we'll see it on the screen when we test this out really quick. Okay, so what do this, 3 or 4 lines do here? It's our PHP script. We're going to set our local name variable to the name that's being passed in the URL. We'll print it out to the screen. We're going to open a file, which I've just hard-coded to be name.txt. We'll open it for writing. Then we're going to write my file with the contents of name, what we get passed in, and then we're just going to close it. So that is going to be our very first script. And then the second script will be to open this file and write the contents of that file to the screen. And I'm just going to write that right now, and then we'll come back and sort of test these out a couple different ways. All right, so how about vi readname.php? All right, so inside of that one, same kind of thing. My file is going to be fopen. And what do we call it? Name.txt. I already forgot. I think it was name.txt for reading. And then we'll say our or die could not open file. Maybe you would want to make this a little bit more verbose, but that's okay. And then we'll echo fread. We're going to read my file. And we also have to tell with fread, we have to say how many bytes we're going to read. And so we're just going to, for right now, we're just going to read the entire thing. So I can say file size of $my file. Actually, I think this is what we want. I am not sure if I would have left it as file size of my file, if it would have worked or not. Probably would not have worked. So this is how I do it. So we're going to give it, actually pass it the string name, which is that full path of it. Since we're going to write everything to where the PHP scripts are living, we're not giving out like a full path, but you could put in a full path. But we're just using name.txt. Okay, so we'll echo it back to the screen, and then we're done. There we go. So this one's just 3 lines. And I will write this out. And we're going to test it. So I'm going to open this up in Chrome, and we will try this out. So we had post name and read name. Let's see, is this going to work? Yes. So I already had this up here. So localhost 8888, that's the port that I'm running on. This is where the server is. What is our PHP script? And then the variable we're trying to pull out of there is name equals Jimmy. So I think if I hit this, there it goes. So this is called the post name PHP script. We passed it in name equals Jimmy. It echoed it to the screen, and let's go take a look at what we have here. So if I go and edit post name, so this is the echo Jimmy. That's how we got Jimmy to the screen, and then it did all this business here. It also saved it in a file called name.txt. So I can cat name.txt, and there's Jimmy. Notice we didn't put a new line, so there is no new line. It's just right here. And then if I say read name in my Chrome, read name, we don't need any of this stuff after it. I'll just hit enter, and it's going to print back Jimmy. It looked like it didn't change, but it really did. It actually read the file and printed it to the screen. So essentially, our server is now complete. We can handle posts and gets, and then now all we need to do is put this inside of Unity, and all this stuff is running on my local machine right now. But the way this thing is structured, any Apache PHP server anywhere, this is going to work. All right, so let's get into Unity and figure out how do we do all this stuff. I've just got a blank scene here. I'm going to add a couple things so that we can do this. I am going to add UI text, and this is going to be what we read from the system. And let me set a couple properties here. I'll go to screen space camera, and we will scale with screen size. Remember, with our canvas, since I'm in screen space camera, I've got to link up our camera with this thing over here to the render camera. And if I look at my game tab, we've got this new text down here. I'm going to start to just position that thing around just a little bit and put it over here. I'm going to give our canvas a couple buttons. This one over here will be, we'll call it set name. So I'll expand the button down to text here. This will be set name. And we'll make one more button. And this will be read name. How about get name? That's better. Move it over here. Oops. That's not what I wanted. There we go. And then we need an input field so that the user can input their name. Input field, here we go. And I'll just drag this thing over here. So the idea, when we run this, is the user will be able to enter their name here. We'll hit set name, which will call our PHP script and save it on our server. And then when we say get name, we're going to call the other PHP script that's going to return it, and then we'll display what we return right here. We'll overwrite this new text. So that's the concept of what we're going for. It's not going to be very long, but we'll do it right here. So we'll create a C# script, and we'll just call it handle, I don't know, buttons. And I'm going to throw that script onto our canvas so that it's there. And we're going to set up a couple things. We're going to put some events in there, some functions that we can call when we click set name and get name, and then we'll put in the code to actually call our URL and get the information out of that. So I will open this up, and here we go. And can I zoom? Why is my zoom not working? Oh, went that way. There we go. Bigger text. Okay. So a couple of things that we will need. We are going to be using Unity Engine .ui, right? Because we have to get to those UI elements like our input field and our text. So we can say public text. We can call it read text. Read as in we've read it from somewhere. I guess that kind of makes sense. And public input field set text. I'm not exactly sure that these variables make any sense with these names, but they do. All right, so I'm going to save this real quick, and let's go back to Unity and see on my canvas. Now we've got these two things, read text and set text. Set text is our input field, which is this thing. So I'm just going to start to assign these over here. And then where we say new text, that's the text that we're going to overwrite when we get something back from the system. So I will just drag that over there, just link them up. Okay. I don't think we're going to do anything with either of these. So we will create some new functions. So public set text. This is going to actually set our text, and then public get text. And these are voids. So when we click on the set text button, we want to call this function. And when we click on the get text button, we want to have this function called. So now that I've saved that, I'm going to go back to Unity, and let's take a look at this set name. Go to my scene tab. So set name, this is our onClick event over here. And we want to call, our object will be canvas, because that's where our script is. And the function will be handle buttons and set text. And then we'll do the same thing for get name. Will be in the canvas, and handle buttons, get text. Okay, so now these things are all properly linked up. I'm just going to hit save there and give me a scene name. So they're all linked up to our script, And now we actually have to do something in here. So when we call set text, remember we want to do this kind of URL business. And so we need to set that up and then call this URL with our new text that's in that input field. So I'm going to have here string, oops, not a string, a string. We'll call it set URL equals, I just copy this. There we go. And we'll have the same thing for get. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, this will be our get URL. Yep. And our set URL, instead of read name, we call that post name. And then remember we had this thing at the end, name equals. So what we're going to do is build these strings and then call it. Okay, so inside of set text, we will, we're actually going to call an enumerator so that we can do the web post and then wait for a response. So we're not going to do it directly in this function because it's not set up to sort of just wait and camp for things to happen. So we'll make a new function here, which is an enumerator. We'll call it set the text, something different. And how about in this one? Yeah, it's fine. So we'll say start coroutine, set the text. So remember, it's a coroutine because we are going to do some yielding in here. And the other thing is when we call set the text, let's also pass it a string. So let's call it red, oops, input field. So set text dot text. So this is the actual text that the user has typed in. And then when we come down here, we'll say string name. All right, so we're just kind of passing into this enumerator the text that somebody had entered before. And now we'll build our URL. So string URL equals set URL plus name. All right, so whatever is in that box, we're just going to get added to this piece over here. And we can say www www. So this is capital www, that's the class. This is our variable. Equals new www of URL. So it's just going to call that URL, then we can have a yield return www. So we're just waiting on that. And that's it. That should set it. And then we'll do the same thing for get text. We'll start a coroutine called get the text. And then enumerator get the text. And same kind of thing. We'll say string URL equals get URL. Remember, we don't have to do any building this time because we're just going to call it directly. And then this www business will be the same. And we have one last line. It's all going to fit on one screen. That's amazing. One last line here. So we are going to call this get URL, and then we're going to wait for it to return. And then we need to update our text on the screen, which we call red text. So red text equals www.text. And remember, so when in our PHP, we just print it out to the screen, and that's how we're going to return this www.text. That's going to get our text. So I think that we are done. I believe all of this will work. So let's find out. The moment of truth. And let's go here. Oops. Let's go back to Unity. Oh. Red text dot text. There we go. That'll make a difference because this is an actual text object. This is the contents of the string. So there we go. That should make everybody happy. Possibly. Yes. All right. Then let's run and see what happens. Let's get name. Jimmy. Okay, so I hit get name and it returned Jimmy, which means our read is working because Jimmy is what we pasted into that URL from earlier. Well, Freddie. How just Fred? And then I can get name, and there it is. So everything is working now. Now if I did something like Billy Joel, Billy Joel, set name, and then we try to get it, we're only returning Billy because the space thing doesn't work very good in a URL, right? We could do a comma. There we go. So as we're posting things to this, we could put something like Fred and his score, and we get it back. That's Fred's score. And then on the PHP side of the world, we can make that a lot more sophisticated to say, okay, when somebody posts a score, we're going to have multiple lines in our file. And we're going to figure out, just like the logic we did in the other leaderboard example, where to store this person's score. And then the read, when we do the get name, it could return a whole bunch of things. And then we just process it out on the C# side in Unity and then display it on leaderboard one line at a time. So that's something else that you can do. I think you could do like Fred. What is this going to do? %20. Yeah. And then there's other like this example here. I replaced it with a %20, and then it all stored and came out correctly. So for any of those control characters like a space and things like that, there are magic ways to do this. So you could process the string that you read out of this and see if you need to put any of these control signs into it. That'll help you store spaces and things like that. But basically, it's pretty easy to store and retrieve stuff on a server. And again, this is really basic. Like if we look at our PHP script here, in this case, our name.txt only has one entry in it. And so we would probably want to make this logic a little bit better, or a lot better, to look at like an array of people and where people's scores fall into it, and fix this. And then in our read names, we would return a whole bunch of different things. And again, this works pretty good, but if you've got several million people hitting a system like this at once, it may not work the way you want it to, and so you may have to come up with some more sophisticated thing of queuing requests and that kind of stuff to make sure that things aren't getting in out of sequence. So, but anyways, I think this really does show what I was trying to do as far as posting and storing data on remote systems. I hope it gives you a start on doing online leaderboards or anything else like this. So, but let me know what you think.